Good evening, friends. Thank you for joining Candid Meena every evening to follow what's happening in India and abroad. Thank you for sending me your useful comments and suggestions. If you believe in this channel, do hit the like button, share with friends, and spread the message. Our only mission is to bring you the truth and both sides of the story. Thank you for your support. I'm just waiting for Dr. Radhika Khanna to join us in this session. She is a personality that we all need to look up to because she's spent her whole life for the service of gifted children. So let me just add her friends. Yeah, welcome, Dr. Radhika.
Namaste. Can you hear me?
Namaste. Namaste. So, friends, like I told you, Dr. Radhika Khanna has traveled all over the world to share her vision and has won several awards and accolades. So, she says that it has been her mission, to share the kind of vision that she wants for children. And as you know, see, these children are by society. Most of the people see them as a liability or a certain burden to society, and most probably in some homes they are kept isolated. They're not accepted easily, and they're not integrated into work. But here is a lady who's changed all that, and said that, see, these children are not only useful to society, but they can add more value to your lives. So welcome, Radhika ji. So such a
Thank
pleasant
you.
this thing to have you in on our show.
Thank you.
Yeah. So please tell us, Doctor, how you started on your journey in this brilliant sort of selfless work that you started with.
I started when I was in college. I was studying in Sapphire College when I used to go to volunteer as a student representative to SPJ Sadhana School. And there, the principal, she saw my dedication and she said, "Why don't you come more often to help?" And I was getting into, I'd done my textiles and I was getting into work and I was getting a lot of offers. I started my own work. But she pulled me in and she said, "Please go and do your special ed." So that was not something on my agenda, but because such a wonderful human being was telling me to do it, I said, "Okay, I'll do the course." I thought I'll just get married after this and, like a good Punjabi girl, have two kids and have a family of my own. But life had something else in store. And I went there to help. And that work that I went there to help has turned out to do so much for this community today.
Yeah.
Mm, I still went there to volunteer, but there was one day when my younger sister had got married, and we had this big Punjabi wedding in our family. And I couldn't find one of my students when I went back to work. So I asked, "Where is Millie?" And then I went to meet her in her chawl room. And that was the thing that changed my life. I knew the mother. She used to sing bhajans to raise money to bring this girl to school by taxi because she was on calipers and she was a slow learner. But the father used to say, call her bad words and say that, she's a wrong woman and he used to abuse her and things like that. So when I went that day to see where Millie was and why she hadn't been coming to school, the whole chawl was charred with smoke as if there was fire. When we entered the room, Millie was sitting in a quiet place in the corner. And I knew she was a brilliant girl and she had a good mind, but she was so scared. And her calipers was on the other side. So I had never seen the father before, and the whole room was charred and it was stinking of burnt flesh. It's then when I realized that I was told by the neighbors that their mother was burnt alive by the stove in the room. And so it shook me to the core because I knew how much that mother, I was young, just out of college, and I was just my first year of teaching, that how much this mother used to do just to make this girl accept her that no, I gave birth to this child and she's a beautiful child. And I that day took a vow that I will do something for these girls so they have dignity and they have their own standing and make them earning members of society. And that has been my struggle and my achievements, to see that these girls who were written off, um, hidden away, people didn't know how to actually educate them, to train them. Uh, they had a lot of difficulties, but I felt because they were all hidden away, people equated them only with intelligence. And to be a contributing a member society as an artist, I didn't think you only need intelligence. You need a lot more. And that's why, yeah, today we have educational programs for them. International authors have written books about this work. And we, at the school where I taught, we had a 93% success of getting kids in the job. And today we have girls in the skilling center who have been earning since the last 27 years. And lots of strategies, learning methods with an Indian ethos have come around. And at the
Brilliant.
moment, yeah. Hmm?
Yeah. Brilliant. And friends, also the fact that see she has created Home Creations Trust, which is built with a conviction to make the specially abled financially independent by uplifting their skills and molding them into financially independent individuals. Now, here, this is the most important thing that any well-wisher would want to do, because see, it's okay you educate the children to a certain extent, but if you don't make them financially independent, they still are liabilities in this world. And in this is what has made Dr. Radhika such a success, because she's gone deeper into the problem and discovered that there's so much more that we can do for these lovely children.
Yeah, it was very, you very rightly said. One had to see many areas. It was not only the skill training, it was how they can handle the emotions, how they can be understood. Mm, Other than having their talents, how can they really be integrated? Because they had shun away from the world, they have been put away from the world. In 1957, this area came out of the Lunacy Act, and they didn't come into education as late as 5 years ago in the Education Act. So really, they were nowhere. So people used to say, "We'll give normal kids money as donation for their livelihood." But why special needs? What can they do? How are they capable? How are they going to step out of the house? How are they going to get independent? Today, when we see the girls are travel by train, local buses in Mumbai, they travel to their jobs, it may be a five-star hotel or maybe a diamond sorting place. The girls have become independent, and all that was part of the repertoire of training. It's not only the skill. Yes, the skill levels, we went up to super skill levels so that they got better jobs, earn better. But when you have a mental condition, uh, which we call as subnormal or below normal standards, there are many other areas that you need to understand, include in the training. Make parents aware that this is the area that you have to pursue. It's not only the embroidery or the painting, toilet training, handling your periods, handling people, handling your infatuations, um, being able to listen to no, being able to know when to stop. So, if you have to remove the charity model, which I wanted to, and made this like a social firm,
Yeah.
they had to be stakeholders in the whole process. So, I think I was way before time when I was doing this. But
Yes.
today
Yes.
we have a book called the VR Purnata, which is written by a Swiss scholar who identified my work, studied it, and the whole new methodology of training, which is based on the Indian philosophy, has come around.
Yeah. So
So financial
you said,
independence is a big thing.
yeah. So you said this incident happened when you were in college. How did you? So you knew from the beginning that your calling was to do this. You were very clear about what you wanted to do. Was it this way, or you went into it naturally? Could you tell us? Yes.
I always wanted to do something for women. The calling was always to do something for women. As you said, I naturally, once my mentors took me into this, I just took my wings and I got extremely good mentors. There was a sister Gaitonde. While I was doing my thesis, I had Melanie Pereira, I had a person in Germany, a person in London. It took 8 years to do my doctorate. And I think art is a big level. And so I saw everybody from the artist's eye. I did not see it from a therapist or an
Yes,
educationist eye. And therefore, the first part
because
of
an
my
artist has a
vocational
very
training
soft heart.
is an art therapist.
Yeah.
And the art therapy program that got developed in 1987, there was one art therapist before me, Mr. Ashok from Ahmedabad. And I was the second art therapist to create this. And then I've had students from international universities to come and work with me on the art therapy program that created communication. I used art to create communication, then went into skill development. So I think the artist in you brings a lot of human quality in you, you know, to be able to be able to connect with another human being who doesn't have speech. It becomes a mode of communication.
So, what I've noticed, Radhika, is that see, many a times parents are not able to admit that there's something different about their child. See, let me tell you about an example that I know from close quarters, where a friend of mine, he had a child who had special abilities, and uh, when I met another specialist in this field, I said she's really good. Why don't you consult her for your son? So immediately the response was, but there's nothing wrong with my son, you see.
Hmm.
So he's going the right way. So immediately they cut off the conversation, and then you're not left with anything to say further, and
Hmm.
the problem continues.
Yeah.
You put him in a normal school, or and you expect him to be like the other children. It doesn't happen. So partly the problem exists with the parents who have not who do not want to recognize it as a problem, or some defect from their side.
Um, it would be more a lack of awareness because each mom, she knows. Now, to accept it and make her husband and her family to accept what she knows is her trial. And when you really go out today, you have the Google Aunt. Before that, you didn't have much. So people didn't have an answer at all. Uh, and they would consider them pagal. So no
Yeah,
mother or father wants to say my child is pagal.
yeah,
So awareness, like what you're doing today, is so important for those parents. That there is help out there. We can get our kids can do something in life. So non-acceptance for them is hurt and not knowing how to go forward,
yeah.
where to go forward, who's going to give them that sensitive understanding. So I think yes, denial does come in their lives. You're right, but what is the way forward for them?
Yeah,
You know.
yeah,
So if with such programs you can create more awareness,
yeah,
you will see that parents are starting to become more. The young moms today are a little bit more forward than when I started. They, in fact, in America today we have an overdiagnosis. Every 55th person is supposed to be on the autistic spectrum
yeah,
disorder. There's so much diagnosis. There is so much help over there that they're happy to have their kid go up and down in a separate vehicle because the state provides that help for them. So now that's a problem on that side. It's an
yeah,
overdiagnosis.
yeah. So
If
this is
we
what
could
the
have better
specialist.
diagnostic systems, I think
Yeah,
parents would get help. Yeah.
yeah, and this is what the specialist I spoke to also said, that there's a growing number of such children, and we need to address this issue with a lot of concern, because many of the times it can be reversed as well. you know and Radhika, I would also like you to meet another brilliant lady who is also working for this cause. Her name is Anuradha Kurup, and she's been with our family, Candid Meena family, for a long time, and she shared her experiences with us. So the moment she knew that you're coming, live with us, she was quite excited. So I just wanted to, make her join the chat as well. And I would also
Sure.
like to especially thank Meera Nair for introducing Radhika Khanna to us. So a big thanks to you, Meera, for that. So let me just add Anuradha Kuruk. Welcome, Anuradha.
Thank you.
Hello.
Namaste. Namaste,
Namaste.
Radhika. And
Yeah.
thank you, Meena. This is a fan moment, fangirl moment, as they say. Meera Nair from our Candid Meena family was the friend who talked to me first about Radhika. So the name was very familiar. So when I looked it up, I was actually, there were two parts to it. One, I was blown away by the absolutely brilliant, selfless work that she had been doing. That was one part of it. The second part, I was feeling quite bad, and I would say sad that such amazing work is going on in so many different pockets of our country. And yet, even though I had been in the field, I lacked enough knowledge about the work done by Dr. Khanna. So I think that was two feelings all year together. And after that, I began to research a little more and found that there are many other people doing good work. And I think programs like yours, Meena, where we are able to share these stories and share these inspirational life journeys like Dr. Khanna's, um, we really need more of that. We need to celebrate real heroes. I'm always saying, especially after Candid Meena, after we began on Candid Meena, till then, I think, like everybody else, I too was a little probably blinded by celebrities and, you know, the people that we celebrate, whether it's sports heroes or film heroes. But now I've become a little more aware and more sensible. And now I just feel that it's, citizens like Dr. Khanna and so many others, they are the real heroes and we need to celebrate them. So I think
Well
this
said.
program,
Thank you
yeah.
so much, Anuradha. So it's an honor
Thank you
to
for
have Dr.
allowing.
Radhika
Thank you
Khanna
so
in our
much.
program. And see, what I I've always appreciated about people working with gifted children is the immense patience you need to handle such children, because sometimes you're teaching the same movement again and again till they get a hang of it. And I mean that's the crux of it. A person has to have immense patience, but then after that you're rewarded by their behavior towards you, isn't it?
Yes,
What would you say,
yes.
Dr. Khanna? Yeah.
The love that these children give you uh, for the time you spend with them is so rich. It keeps you going, your day happy, and it spreads a lot of happiness. So sometimes I feel मुझे नहीं मालूम मैंने इनको क्या सिखाया पर इन्होंने मुझे बहुत कुछ दिया, because I can go home, smile, and I can sleep so well in the night, you know.
Yes.
So, yes, we need a lot of patience, but in the kind of program I teach, the teachers have to be aware instead of keep repeating
Yeah.
to see how they are learning. So the learning gets faster. So the teachers have to do a lot of work. They report on a daily basis so that we are not doing something for X number of times and then saying, इसको नहीं आता है. कि आज नहीं आया तो कल के लिए हमको क्या करना है.
Huh.
एंड और बच्चे से सीखना है कि वो कैसे सीखेगा.
Yeah.
So a teacher has to have a very open mind and she has to be ready that she is not the one who is going to teach, but she is only going to facilitate the learning the child wants to do. And for
Absolutely.
that, it is a 360 degrees different way of doing planning.
Yeah.
So we don't write plans and plans and plans. What we write is a teaching format. And that is
Okay.
what I've given the special world.
Yeah.
I don't plan for the child, but I plan how the teacher is going to teach. So she is more strictly monitored than the child in one sense.
Yeah. So
Because
can you
it's a
tell
lot
us?
of waste of
Yeah.
time just going on and on and on, and you don't get
Yeah.
results.
Yeah. So
So,
could you tell us of an example of a child who's completely changed under your care?
which example?
Yeah, there'll be so many. Exactly. Yes.
So, anything that comes to my mind, in which context, socially, work-wise, mm,
You could
it's a,
select any,
it's
because see,
it's one of the
ultimately you're talking about the change in the child.
so in my first batch of the 5-year program, one of my students, he really didn't have speech. He was a Down syndrome. Very pleasant boy, but had very little speech. He took to catering. Towards the end of the third year, they go into internships, and we found Nikhil was very ready for internship. But his mother was a pediatrician in a very well-known hospital in Mumbai. And I know how doctor parents are very difficult to deal with because they know all the negatives that can come through.
Yeah.
They know all the things that may happen to the child. So, and she was so protective about him. So we decided to go slow. We didn't think we were going to achieve much having her on our team. So we started training him, and he started going to a five-star hotel
Yeah.
from his house to Andheri, where is the Santa Cruz airport today. At that time, 30 years ago, he had to change two buses, which in Mumbai is quite a challenge to get off one BST bus and go onto the other BST bus. And where the airport crossroad is, where he's going to Orchid Hotel, the crossing was a huge challenge. It's a four-way crossing, and there's traffic all the time over there. Not at all organized like what you would see an organized four-way outside the airport. So we trained, we did all that. We went on doing that for a year, and they were very happy at the Orchid Hotel. And they said we would like to take Nicole on as a full-time employee. So we were shooting our movie for the graduation of these children, and the director, she saved it for the last moment. So she put the mom and the dad candid on the screen, and she said, "So what do you think how Nicole is doing, and what is he doing?" He said, "Yeah, he's doing some training. They're sending him to some hotel. I keep very busy, but I have full faith in what they're doing."
Uh,
And we handed over the appointment letter, and that mother, she was like crying
mm,
because she said, "My other son is 22, 23, and this fellow's 21, and you've got him a job. I think Nikhil can't speak, he can't do much. He loves to cook. I've seen him cooking, but I cannot believe this, you know. And
okay.
how did she go all the way to Orchid?" Then she asked us. So
Oh,
it is a
brilliant.
joyful
Yeah.
moment that I want to share.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
a medical doctor, it opened her eyes that my son can be employed. And it was so wonderful when she retired from this hospital. She went to Pune, and the same hotel chain took him on in Pune and gave him a
Oh, how
job there.
nice. Yeah.
So he was
Yeah.
so well trained. But when we were shooting for the movie, we went, "Isko ye kaise bus lega, kaise uthega, ye sab karne ke liye." So the director had done the whole, okay, they'll stand in a distance and they'll see how he'll stand at the bus stop and he'll take his bus. And they were shocked because the bus didn't stop. Nikhil didn't get off on the bus stop, but the bus went straight ahead. And where his building is, the bus actually, the BST bus stops outside his building, and our Django gets on. And he made so much friends with the conductor as well as with the driver, so much
Yeah.
confidence with lack of speech. That's what we thought. But it's a communication. So communication is a great strength in my work. And so he got on the train and then, got onto the bus and then went on to his work. So we realized these students know how to create their own world. They know how to communicate if you guide them correctly. So the teacher who did all this work, she herself was quite surprised because she would go and sit in the dressing room to see how he was doing when he was in the kitchen. And now post COVID, he's again got back his job. So
Oh, brilliant. Yeah.
students really surprise you, and if you give the right kind of training and skill sets and expose them to a lot, they can do as normal people can. Yeah, a lot of them can.
So,
But a lot
Radhika,
of
so
investment in training, and that investment has a cost which is worth doing. Otherwise, they'll go on to psychiatric care.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
investment in training should not be looked as a cost, but it should look at something to nurture a
Yeah,
human being who's going to contribute to the GDP of the country.
absolutely.
And we start looking at it from that perspective. then nobody's special. Everybody here is to give and gain from each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, as you said earlier, therapies like art therapy change children. I've also seen that, see, when they interact with animals, there's a lot of change in their behavior. And a lot of things like when they're in with nature, the children change, their nature. So could you tell us about these aspects, how they have improved, your children's behavior?
So when the skilling center that I have now, we want to start as soon as possible. It is in 13 acres. And everybody said we could do it over 1 acre. Why did we have to buy 13 acres? It's because, as you said, the environment, the animals, the trees, the flora, the fauna, the butterfly, they all participate to be part of your growth. It makes you calmer. The environment, environments make you calmer. You also want to communicate with a beautiful flower. You want to chase a butterfly. You want to look at a beautiful peacock, you know. So the environment, that is why it's the FACE program, facing autism and creating an environment for change. So I talk deeply and greatly about having the right environment for training.
Yeah,
And all of us who studied so many years ago would have loved it if we didn't sit all the time on those desks. Would have loved it if we had put our hands into the soil, would have learned so much from just feeling things. So a lot of autistic children don't like to touch mud, slimy things. They're not exposed to it. But bachpan mein we automatically went into this. So if we didn't like to put our hands into mush and muds, we learned to do it. So we didn't
yeah,
stay autistic. So environment plays a very large role in making. So animal therapy is what they're saying today with, they're doing it with horses, dogs,
yeah.
people visually impaired. A good dog is a great help to them in crossing a road or being with them. So yes,
So
animals
here,
play a
here,
very
doctor,
happy role.
yeah. So here,
Mhm.
doctor, would you say that the innocence that you see in animals is what appeals to them?
Correct.
And
Yeah, it
yeah.
does.
Also, I
They,
think yeah,
Yes,
I
Anurag.
think the unconditional love and the loyalty that animals show,
mm,
animals don't judge you based on your qualifications or your skills or anything. They just relate to your heart. So I
mm,
think that has a very therapeutic value, and that makes the child feel very secure and very
mm,
wanted. I think we all like that, right? We want to feel loved, we want to feel accepted, and animals
mm,
do that very very easily. So I think yeah, the therapeutic value of nature and animals cannot be overstated. I mean, it is one of the most important in a learning. It's very sad that for regular so-called normal or regular mainstream children, the education is more within the four walls of a classroom,
Absolutely.
because I think all children would benefit from studying outside in nature whenever possible.
you
So
need
we
less
have a viewer
psychiatric and medical
telling
help.
you, asking you, Radhika. Radhika, ma'am, how can I get in touch with you? I'm also working on neuroplasticity and
Mm,
neurohabilitation domain. It
mm.
would be great to connect with you. So what I could do, sensible, is below this video, we will put the details of Dr. Radhika, and you can contact her through that. So,
So we've done a
whichever
lot
way.
of work with the right and the left brain, and we've
Okay.
used the neuroplasticity as one of our areas. So we don't have this. So we'd love to share with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And it works very well with many other areas of work that we do so that we
Yeah,
make the brain grow. Yeah.
yeah. So one of our viewers was asking, why is there a, why are there a larger percentage of such children in modern times? Could you tell us something about that, Dr. Khanna?
What we understand is there's a tremendous use of technology today. तो जब हम बचपन में एक जॉइंट फैमिली में होते थे और अगर हमको कुछ आता भी नहीं था, वी डिडंट नो हाउ टू डू मेनी थिंग्स, somebody in the house, a friend, an aunt, a cousin, a servant, or a helper in the cow shed, somebody around the house helped me to cope with my slowness or not understanding. But when I'm cooped up in a flat and I'm very technology oriented and it's all on a press of a button, so if you press the right button, you will get the right response. So the lack of human touch is creating us more boxed in. Um, a lot more women are getting into some substance abuse, like maybe tobacco or more alcohol. It does affect the fetus. It certainly does affect the fetus. So they are also sometimes not really looking into long-term future as they're going to be carriers of the next generation. So life has become very short-lived at times, I find, and whereas the earlier generation was a little careful in these
Yeah,
areas.
yeah,
I also feel that there is tremendous lot of medication. The pharmaceutical world is there around you. So the space that we had with Ayurveda, the natural herbs in every country in the world, there was a internal home remedy and a solution for things that gives space for healing. So there is a lack of feeling for healing. There is more focus for instant cure. So we are finding more and more students in this area because we don't have space and time for each other's. It's just wonderful if the kids just roam around when they're little in the garden and mess up with the with the mud. But today, the parents want them in the best institutions, so they force a lot of information into them. And later on, there are some studies that are also saying today we see a lot of criminality in international first world countries in the schools. It's a lot of frustration. They're getting so much information quickly, and they want to act on the information. So we need to pause, we need to give time, we need to have those times that we did with our parents. We did a prayer together, we did a going to the temple together, the walk together to a place, to a store down the road. I remember my grandfather, he loved golgappas, pani puri. So we used to sneak with him from our house without my mom going to the vendor down to have that pani puri. 50 paisa ka 5 puris we used to get. But those kind of things I find missing with children and families today across the world. Doesn't mean a pani puri. There were kids earlier at my time, my friends in Germany and all, did other things with their parents, simple things. And there's a lot of learning in simple things. So we're finding a lot more kids in on the spectrum or thing because we are not being free with nature. We're not
yeah.
being open with nature. This is my, other than of course the
Also,
medical
doctor,
pollution, all those normal things that are, people
yeah,
are talking about, overload.
yeah. Also,
Mm,
doctor, another thing that I wanted to say is that, see, in today's modern age, women have very little patience. I would say parents would have very, very little patience with normal children itself.
mm,
So they are put in
mm,
creche, at a very early age, so that they are
yeah.
out of your head,
Mm,
and your system. And I have also seen the way children are treated in these creches, in these
mm,
nurseries.
mm,
If you don't have a camera, you don't even know what's happening there. So there's a lot of
mm,
psychological problems happening to even the normal children. So
mm,
can you imagine if you have a gifted child, if you don't have patience, what would be the state of the child at home? So this, as you said, because of so many pressures, also the fact that, see, we are, as we go in such a fast forward life, we are losing our patience, and that's the biggest problem that these children are having. Yes, Anuradha, you wanted to say something.
Yes, I completely agree with Dr. Khanna. As she said, the fast paced life and the immediacy of social media or digital communication. Earlier, you wrote letters, you waited for the postman, and now we find, often we have 3, 4 tabs open on our phone, and we are pressing WhatsApp on one and sending a mail on the other, and there's so much of audio and video input. Now imagine, like, just us, if there's the TV is on, the radio is on, your son is playing some music, after some time you'll just say, just slow down that noise, because we grew up without that, right? And for us it creates confusion. But most of today's kids are growing up with that as normal. They are used to the TV blasting, and they've got the PSP in one hand and they've got the phone in the
Yeah,
other.
absolutely.
And there have been a lot of studies to show that this constant kind of, that this constant kind of manipulating digital media affects the neural networks.
Yeah.
And I, as a school teacher, have seen that I think everybody knows that the more time the child spends on gadgets, we see a lot of attention deficit disorders. We see a lot of, I will not call it ADHD or hyperactivity, but we see an immense amount of restlessness in the kids, because they are used to, say, ordering it, order something, immediately it's accepted. So they get very, very restless unless they have something to do. They're not able to sit idle. So when you so yoga, meditation, art therapy, mandala, sitting with nature, and the simple thing about gardening, where they actually see that it's going to take time after you've sown the seed for the sapling to come up. All these are ways to slow down the pace of life. This is my own understanding, what I've seen in the classroom.
Yeah. Dr. Radhika, see, you've received a lot of awards and accolades for the kind of work that you've done. You've traveled all over the world, interacted with people in this concern. See, when you've traveled, they say that your mind widens as you travel, because you see, when you see more people, you accept more, you become more broad-minded, and you start seeing things in a different light. So, has all this, helped you in your, growth?
Greatly. Um, when I taught in Africa, I realized how better we were in India. Uh, when I worked with Australia, New Zealand, or when I, gave my papers in the European areas, I learned so much from them. But also, I learned there was so much to give them. Our naturalness, our art, our entire ways that the Indian homes live. Uh, uh, अपने बड़ों को आदर करना, respect and प्रेम देना. They have so many values. I was asked to give a teaching format of mine in Italy, in a place. I'm forgetting the name of the place, but there were over 500 teachers, there when I was talking. And one of my mentors, he was Professor Falik. He was there in the audience. So I just, began my entire uh, lecture by saying namaste. And before I went and touched his feet, and I said, my professor's here and I want his blessings, because I'm talking to such a large international gathering of teachers. And he was crying throughout my presentation. And at the end, he came and said, this is what I love about India. This is what I like India gives to us. Their sanskars, the way they handle people and things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
The
I
humane
think,
touch.
not that I have learned a lot, like we put in brain gym, which I realized was just yoga in a very fancy way. Because they don't initially, it's a lot of things that we did in India was not appreciated by some of our first world countries. If I learned things from Israel and the professors over there, I enriched it in the Indian curriculum. I shared my knowledge with them. I did a course, I taught a teaching format to the teachers how to teach little kids, kindergarten kids with special needs, from the age of 3 to 10, Dandiya Ras. So it was a very interesting, I showed them how we wear lengas and how we use the sticks, and, and how it becomes an occupational therapy thing to hit the two sticks together. And, and just take the risk. They're not going to beat up anyone. So that's what, yeah, that's what just comes to my mind.
In
But
fact,
when I
doctor,
worked in Africa, it was
see,
very
yeah,
difficult.
yeah. In fact, doctor, in Israel, they always say that when a mother is pregnant, they make her go through this whole phase where she listens to music, and so that the child gets inspired and looks, watches nature, and everything that she does is to make a very refined human being come out of her, tummy. So these things are said to, affect the child, whatever you're listening, if it's good music or mantras, whatever you do. So here, this is the opposite of what is happening in modern age. Modern age, you're telling, everybody not to listen to all these things. You run the rat race. You know, so
Mm.
this has definitely had a,
See,
this thing on the children, as you say.
so when in my FACE program, in my research, how to train and teach these students, I found that I was not able to get much speech out of them, and speech therapy was really not really helping. So, in the phase two, when we did Kriya with them, the most difficult part for them was to say the word Om.
Yes.
Yeah, the students who didn't have speech, and how that's a whole research is how we got that going from them. And once they got into the Om meditation, so much opened up for them. And then we went into laughing therapy and how we developed the lungs capacity for them to be able to communicate. So
Yes.
when I was doing these things 30 years ago, obviously everybody thought that I had reached my level too. And, and in Halifax, when I talked about Kriya and yoga, bringing the change, because that's the second part of the FACE program in this, the part of, till we reach the Santulan part of it. And it was so interesting because it was almost one of the last papers in the conference, and I had so many people attend it. And I wish at that time I said, I wish people in India were so interested, you know. So today I see now 30, 20, it's almost, I think, 22 years ago. So I see so much change now in us accepting our yoga and our philosophy is part of the system of training and teaching.
Absolutely. And look at the happiness. You see some of the photographs that you've sent us. Look at the
Yeah.
happiness when they do these creative work. It's like, they're living in their, elements. Everything is so, bright for them. I mean, this is the kind of environment. You look at these class shots where they're creating Ganeshas. I mean, look at the kind of fitness that they,
So this is
showing
at
us,
a
with their work.
residential center in Karjat. It's a 2-year program.
Yes,
And in COVID, we took up the students, the villagers, we did a lot of free work for them. And today they've got jobs with Amazon and Flipkart and things like that.
oh, very good.
Mhm. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
So
Yes.
the training helps
Could you explain this,
greatly.
Dr. Radhika? This is what you talk about, the impact, home creation.
I can't read it. So can you read
Yeah.
it for me?
Yeah.
I'll just.
Yeah. So let me just take my glasses. Yes. So you're talking about student impacted,
Mm-hmm.
parents sensitized, siblings sensitized, community
Hmm.
impacted countries.
Hmm.
And then you say
Hmm.
supported by key donors, visitors,
Hmm.
Indian and international, partnered with
Hmm.
empowered and employed
Hmm.
international presence. So you're talking about the whole process, I guess.
So here, this was made. I got the top 15 women, top 15 women for Niti Aayog. So
Yeah.
we were to write to them how our work had been impacted in these
Yes.
areas. So
Yes.
these many people in these areas got impacted because we
Yeah.
had just finished a research on 25 years of Om creations
Yeah.
and how the work has impacted and made a change in India and the world today. So
Yes.
these are the areas that they were impacted, and so many people in these areas have been impacted.
Yeah. Brilliant. I mean, the kind of work, and this is something, let's see about this,
So
our
what I
products. Yeah.
yeah always as an artist and had done my textile designing from Sapphires. It was a JJ program. So for me, I didn't want anybody to buy things out of charity.
Yeah.
And so I worked R&D of our product, how the handicapped person with disability will be able to do it comes through the teaching format. So the teachers have to break that into details. And at the end of the day, we have to get a finished product. And
Yeah.
in that assembly line, what each child does, his strengths are, that has to be determined. So there's a lot of paperwork and R&D before the product comes out in the market for a sale. So
Yeah.
we handled it very much like a social firm
Yeah.
where people should not buy because of charity.
Absolutely. Yeah. Here,
But the
one of our
training has
viewers.
an X amount of cost where
Yeah.
people think, oh, मन बुद्धि है तो क्यों इसके ऊपर आपको spend.
Hmm.
So that was That was my huge struggle because people were
Yeah,
not willing to fund quality training.
yeah,
जब आपको एक ब्लैक बोर्ड मिल जाता है जो इतना सस्ता काला पेंट लगा सकते हो तो आपको डिजिटल बैकग्राउंड और आपको मैग्नेटिक ब्लैक बोर्ड क्यों चाहिए जो आपको 1,000 में हो सकता है आपको 5,500 का क्यों
mm,
चाहिए सो पीपल वर आर नॉट विलिंग टू इन्वेस्ट in
mm,
teacher training. Capacity of teachers is expensive, but it's worth it. And in good quality uh, resources.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
you get a better quality product.
Yeah, absolutely. Doctor, there's a viewer who's saying, Julie West, she's saying, when I was in school, back class, be slow, I was slow, I guess she's saying, didn't learn like other children, a lot better than school, but still not as good as normal children. So perhaps what she's trying to say is that she was a backbencher because perhaps she was not seen as a very bright student. And because of that, she couldn't learn as well as the other students did.
So I can I
So what's
just
the
take
question to me?
Yeah, please.
yeah, I just wanted to share that uh, being in the classroom, I work in an inclusive school where children with different kinds of challenges are part of the mainstream school. There's a pull-out program, so they're part of the mainstream classes for maybe art and PE, or they take them separately as needed. And I just find that when I also was teaching I also teach children at the ICSE and the ISC level. So I'll take a simple example. I had a student who had a speech and hearing disability, brilliant artist. And I was teaching the poem Daffodils by William Wordsworth. I think it was class 8 or 9. And I remember she was part of the mainstream classroom. So I had them in groups, and one group was, I think, they do chart work. So they were writing out the poem, in nice print. They were writing it out on a chart. Another group was, they were doing something with the similes and the metaphors and cut and paste. And for her and another student who both loved art, they were sketching the poem. They sketched the poem, they were just painting it. So at the end, we had something that each child in the classroom participated in according to their interest.
Yeah.
And after about a week or 10, I think about a month later, she came to me, this kid, and she showed me a painting. It wasn't yellow daffodils. It was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was the blue flower. It's a very famous one. I can't remember. I think it's a cornflower. And she told me that, she couldn't speak, but she said, "Ma'am, I've painted this." So I said, "That's very nice." And she said, I was feeling very sad because something had happened. And she said, just like William Wordsworth, when he was pensive, he thought about the daffodils. And so I remember doing a workshop with all our teachers. And I said, "Tell me, who understood daffodils more? Was it this child? Or
Yeah,
was it the
exactly.
kid who can write all the similes and metaphors? Or is it the kid who can answer?" So, learning is not measurable by one standard.
Yeah,
And I think that's the mistake that a lot of us teachers make. But our hands are also tied because of the examination system.
yeah. In
At
fact, I wanted
times,
to, yeah. In fact, I wanted to just give you a small example. Of course, it's not connected with it. Where I was watching a video where, some people, in the East, Far East, they come with their birds. And these are all nightingale type of birds, and they come and sit near the riverfront, and there is a place to hang these bird cages, and all of them are relaxing. These men are relaxing, and the birds are singing away. So someone asked them, "See, why do you get all these birds together? I mean, you can put them anywhere you want, even in silence, where you can have some quiet time for yourself." So he said, "No, each bird will learn from the other bird a new song." Okay, so the list of songs that a nightingale has will expand, you know so she will know so many songs more. So this is the same with our children. See, the more our children are exposed to a beautiful environment where growth is natural, where it's not forced. So this is exactly what Dr. Radhika and Anuradha are doing. See, they are saying that, see, don't make it so much of what you call digital bombardment or whatever. Let them learn the natural way. At the same time, they are guided so that you know that they're going the right way and getting, in the end, a job so that they're financially secure and their parents are happy, that they don't leave their children, just for anybody to exploit. So,
Yes.
yeah. So it's such a brilliant thing that you're doing, Radhika. We are very proud of you. So when Meera told me these things about you, I said, I mean, more people should know about this, doctor, because
Yes.
see, these are the kind of Indians we need, because you are the true ambassadors, who are not only spreading the word but also saying that there are solutions to problems that people think, are permanent. This is not a permanent problem. There's solutions to it, and you're showing it in such a simple manner. Yes, doctor.
Thank you so much.
No, in
Yeah, the
fact,
most
my
we
request
are happy
was,
to help as many children and parents. We're looking forward. We made a bigger space now so we can accommodate students and we
my
can
request to all
spread
the
this around.
viewers is, along with all our chats about the latest movies and the books and, the latest diets and the keto diet and this diet, we all do that, right? But maybe we can also talk about such meaningful work being done and spread the word, one at a time, because you never know when it will reach a parent who
See, let me tell you
desperately
something,
needs.
Anuradha. See, Anuradha, let me tell you, I'm being very frank, okay? The name of the show itself is Candid. Okay, I'm being very frank. Now, see, why, is this is not this Dr. Radhika's words or your words are not spreading as fast as it should, is because our mainstream media concentrates on what sells. Okay.
Yes.
So what sells is entertainment or something of that sort, where people are entertained. Like you take a capsule and you're quickly entertained. Then you go to something else. You go to a club, you get have a dance, and you enjoy a birthday cake and come back. In this case, what is happening when we have specialists like you are talking about things that they don't want to hear. It's something that they don't want to, they don't want to admit that there is a section of society who needs to be helped, who
Correct.
needs to be focused on,
Correct.
and well, so that's why if you look at the number of people watching, usually our shows have a lot more people. That's the very reason why fewer people. But I actually cherish all these viewers who are with us now watching us live. Each one is asking you such important questions, and how much they adore people like you, because you are doing, it's a very big job. You're not only a teacher, you're a guide. You're studying strategies, to carry this forward, to get people to focus on it. You've written books. In fact, viewers, Radhika has written many books as well. I mean, in this period of time, she's done so much immense work. Radhika, I'm very curious to know, before the last few minutes before we close, what is your daily schedule? I mean, I know that, see, from your face, I can make out there is, you say that there is so much tejas, so much of,
Absolutely.
yes, warmth shining from your face.
Radiant,
It's like a
divine
sun. Yeah,
beauty.
like a sun shining from your face. So, what I want to know, Radhika, is that, see, tell us about your schedule. Because we're also inspired by you. Even if we get something out of what you do, we are doing something good for society.
When I was 17 in school, I was diagnosed with rheumatism arthritis. So I moved into Ayurveda and changed my lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I wanted to heal myself too. So I went into Vipassana. That was the 11-day course. And then I moved into, I found Shishi as my guru. And till I didn't finish my doctorate, I used to go there and I used to get these 4 days of silence. And I was able to concentrate and bring out this entire training program. And then now I'm a art of living teacher too. So I meditate. I try to get up between 4 and 5. But these days I've been traveling to Karjat because that's where our residential is. So I keep a meditative program in the morning before 6 a.m. Have a breakfast with my parents because my dad insisted a breakfast is the most important part of the day. So if I had to spend 8 to 9 fruits minimum on the table, and milk or whatever. So that was very important to energize your body in the morning. Easy working lunch, and a day full of work, because a special needs parent, when it knocks on your door, you don't know how to refuse them.
Yes.
And they have tried doctors and gurus, when they after that they come to you. So it's like you are now the last resort.
Last resort, yes.
So it, you don't want to send a parent back or a child
Yeah.
back with some support systems. So we take them on. So though we have a schedule of meeting people, funders, donors, parents, my teachers, um, even anybody walk in, we just at that moment we accommodate. Sometimes we very rarely say no, that I will not see them. So that day is not really that planned, but it's planned to some extent, that they know where I am if they want to catch me.
Yeah.
In the evenings, I come home. If I can have a walk, I do. Then I spend some time with mom, eat, watch TV, entertain, get to know what's happening around. And in the evenings, then I go to bed before 11, try to do that. So that's a simple routine of mine.
Yeah.
But
No,
my
she's
father
made it
taught us
sound
to
so
eat
simple.
correctly.
She's made it
Eat
sound so
correctly.
simple, but it's a heavy, heavy burden she carries, and she carries it so lightly and so gracefully. Because I know that each of these meetings with special parents, with special children, can be very, very emotionally, it
Draining.
takes a
Yeah.
toll. So,
So
Yeah,
Maya is
because
asking you.
it becomes your job to show them the positive.
Yeah.
And if you keep a meditative routine, and my mentor used to always tell me, neti, 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 not this,
Yeah.
not this, not this.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to keep reminding yourself uh, that you may be in this physical form, but there is more around you. And therefore, a
Absolutely.
lot of my training is done understanding the chakra system, which today
Yeah.
everybody understands. But 30 years ago, when I spoke and talked about it, people didn't know what it was. So
Absolutely.
we got to change
Way of
open our
thinking.
minds, as Nina said, open our minds to things
Yes.
around it and imbibe
Yes.
that in ourselves. Yeah.
Absolutely. Maya is asking you, Radhika, where exactly is your center in Karjat? Would like to visit and spend some time there to do something useful.
So just drop it an email before you come, so that you are
Maya, I can
welcomed
do that for
home.
you. Yeah, I'll give you Dr. Radhika's contact.
Mm,
And meanwhile, we
mm.
have the wonderful person who is the one who introduced Radhika to us. Meera, welcome. Though you don't want to come on camera, so
Why? Tell her to come, Mira. You haven't yet come to Home Creations. Now I'm
Hello,
telling
hi,
your team here.
hi,
Yeah.
all of you. No, I've not been keeping too well, so
yeah,
that's why I haven't come on camera. But
Okay.
thank you, Radhika, for joining Candid Meena today. It was
No,
wonderful
not
to
at all.
hear whatever you have said. But as I've known you almost all my life, I can just vouch for everything she does. And she's
yes,
been a compassionate soul, I think, right from our school
yeah,
days.
that you can make out.
And
Yes,
she has made not only all of us friends and acquaintances proud, but her parents, I know, are extremely proud of her and all the work she does. And it's people like Radhika who need to be feted by the government with Padma Shri
absolutely.
and stuff. And I'm
Yes,
sure she'll get it one of these days.
yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
100%
And
sure.
also be
I
ambassadors
remember
for
Radhika.
different
Yeah,
programs.
I remember Radhika on the days I think I've put out something in Femina which you wanted, like that was maybe decades back. But she's a wonderful artist and her textile designing was also going great. And then she just changed track and used art in this. So it's been wonderful knowing her and more power to people like Radhika.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
thanks again, Radhika. And surely Karjat is well on my to do in my on my next trip to Mumbai.
yeah.
So
And my
all the
What
best.
request
about
also.
coming, Mira, to Mumbai Center?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Next trip, definitely.
Yeah,
I'm
and my
supposed
request.
My husband saw the Karjat Center and he says, okay, that's our next trip. So he was so inspired. And yes, Meera, you talked about compassion. I just wanted to add, yes, of course, Radhika is compassionate and Dr. Khanna is compassionate and empathetic. There are a lot, but she's actually taken that and she's on grassroots. She's doing something with it,
Yeah.
and that is where the difference between many of us and Dr. Khanna lies,
She has
in
dedicated her life entirely,
yes,
selflessly working
absolutely,
for
Yes.
these
absolutely,
children. So, I mean, kudos to her and more power to her.
Yeah. So
absolutely.
thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Meera.
Thank
Meera
you
and
so
me
much.
have long way together. We've grown
Yeah.
up together.
You told me, yes, yes. So,
Mhm.
Dr. Radhika, a big thank you from us and our
Thank you.
viewers, and from Anuradha and from Meera for connecting with us and for speaking so beautifully. This is just one quarter of what you do. There's so much more, and we would request you to come, once in a while and visit us, so that more people are educated on this, and we could talk about different aspects, and how we could help these parents, which is very important in
Yeah,
society.
that's true. 13% is disability in our country. It's a
Yeah,
large area.
yeah,
Mm.
absolutely.
And
Thank
2
you,
to
ladies.
4% is
And
intellectual disability.
absolutely.
So what 200 million kids? Yeah,
Yeah. So
it's
thank
Thank
you
a
so much,
large area.
Doctor,
What is got to
and
be done?
Anu and Meera for
thank you
joining
so
us.
much.
Good night,
Thank you
Thank you.
so
and
much.
yeah,
Thank you.
good night and Jai Hind.
Jai
Jai
Hind.
Jai.